All right, welcome back to the deep dive. You know how we do it here? We like to really get into those topics that kind of grab you and make you think, wait, what? What
Hmm.
was that?
Yeah.
And today we're going to be looking at a new plan for Earth. And, well, let me just say, it's a pretty big plan.
Okay.
We found this
Nah.
article online. It's from a group called Interway. And they're really laying it all out there. I mean, they're talking about like a whole new way for us to be living, leading, even this idea of becoming like type 1 civilization.
Type 1 civilization. Well, I'm definitely curious now.
Yeah, we're going to get to that for sure. But first, you know what really jumped out at me? It's like this whole emphasis on leadership
Mm.
in this plan.
Mm.
They keep talking about this one who's supposed to kind of show us the way forward. What do you think that's about? Who is this one, and what kind of leadership are they saying we need?
Well, it's interesting they use one almost like it's an archetype, like
Hmm.
a symbol for the perfect leader we need right now. They seem to be looking for someone who embodies all these qualities like courage and authenticity, integrity, someone who really prioritizes unity over division.
Yeah.
Like imagine a leader who's not just, playing the political game, but who's really truly committed to everyone's well-being, the people, the planet, the whole deal.
So it's not just about charisma or
Mm.
being powerful. It's got to be something deeper, a deeper sense of like purpose and real commitment.
Exactly, yeah. They're calling for someone who can inspire us to move past our current, well, just say our outdated systems.
Right.
And, the plan actually talks about like nefarious forces that are kind of blocking our progress.
Mm.
Now, I don't want to get all conspiracy theory on you or anything, but what do you think they're talking about there? Like, what obstacles does this plan seem most concerned about?
Yeah, that part's a little cryptic, I got to say.
Yeah.
But I think what they're trying to point to are those forces, that benefit from things staying the same, even if it hurts the planet or most people in the long run.
Like, think about things like corruption, greed, systems that are more focused on making a quick buck than thinking about sustainability.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It makes me think of, well, like the climate crisis. We have the
Yeah.
knowledge, the technology to really tackle it, but we just can't seem to take real action, And it's like
Yeah.
a lot of that's because of these powerful Chris who are just protecting their own bottom line.
Yeah.
That's one example, but it really highlights those challenges this new plan for Earth seems to be addressing.
It's almost like they're saying we need to like totally reboot our thinking, our systems, everything.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've got the leadership part, we've got the challenges, but now let's get into their main goal here.
Yeah.
They call it a spiritually united interstellar type 1 civilization.
Wow.
Okay, break that down for us. What does it all mean?
Yeah, there's a lot packed in there. It,
Yeah.
it is ambitious, I'll give them that.
So let's start with type 1 civilization. This idea actually comes from something called the Kardashev scale, which basically measures how advanced a civilization is based on how much energy they can use.
Hmm.
So a type 1 civilization, they can harness all the energy available on their planet. Think about like controlling the weather, stopping natural disasters, really using every ounce of the Earth's resources.
Well, that sounds like something out of science fiction.
It kind of is, right?
But why is this idea of becoming interstellar so important to their plan? And what about this whole spiritual unity thing? Where does that fit in?
That's where things get really interesting, I think.
Okay.
They seem to believe that, becoming a type 1 civilization, it's not just about tech advancements. It needs a shift in how we think, like a deeper understanding of how we're all connected. As humans, with the planet, everything. They're imagining humanity kind of united by shared values, almost like a spiritual awakening.
Mm.
And that's what allows us to figure out all the complexities of space travel and, meeting other civilizations out there.
So it's not just about like conquering space, it's about evolving as a species,
Mm,
both with technology and spiritually.
exactly.
I see how they're connecting the dots here.
Mm.
But the big question is, how do we get from where we are now to this huge vision?
Yeah.
What actual steps does this new plan for Earth lay out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's actually where the article gets a little less, detailed.
Okay.
They talk a lot about this idea of leading with integrity and honesty, challenging anyone who's in the way of progress, and creating this new model for Earth based on cooperation and, you guessed it, spiritual unity.
Hmm.
But what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. They're big on intentions, but what about the specifics? Let's dive into that new model they keep mentioning. How is it different from what we have now? And how could it actually help us achieve this vision?
Okay, great question. Yeah, that's the heart of it, right? Like it's easy to talk about these big ideas, these ideals, but how do we actually make that happen? How do we bridge that gap between intention and actually, changing things?
Yeah, you said it. I mean, it's all well and good to say new model, but what does that even mean for, for me, for you, for our daily lives?
Well, let's think about our current economic system for a second. It's mostly driven by competition, right? Like individuals, corporations, always trying to make more profit.
Right.
And a lot of times that ends up, well, hurting the environment or, other people's well-being.
Yeah, it's like it's built on this idea that there's not enough to go around, so everyone's got to fight for their share. But this plan, it seems like they're suggesting something completely different.
Exactly. This new model is all about cooperation, not competition.
Okay.
Imagine businesses working together to solve problems, sharing resources, creating value for everyone involved, not just the shareholders at the top, focused on the bottom line.
So instead of just how much profit can we squeeze out, it's more like how can we create a system that actually benefits everyone, including the planet?
That's the shift in thinking they're talking about. It's about moving towards what they call a circular economy, where resources are used efficiently, there's minimal waste, and people in the planet are considered every step of the way. And you know what? We're already seeing some of that happening. Like, look at the movement towards sustainable business practices, ethical consumerism, all that.
So it's not just some far-off idea.
Yeah.
There are people actually putting this kind of thinking into action.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just economics, too. This shift from competition to collaboration, it applies to everything. Politics, social structures, even our personal relationships. Think about how much conflict comes from that us versus them mentality.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly being pitted against each other.
Yeah.
Politically, socially, economically, you name it. This plan, it's asking for a pretty radical change from that.
It is radical. And that's what I find so interesting about it. They're not just talking about changing external systems, but also like a shift in our consciousness, moving away from that ego-driven separation and towards a more heart-centered understanding of how connected we truly are.
And that's not just some like new age thing, right?
Yeah,
There's actual science that backs up this idea of interconnectedness.
exactly. I mean, look at quantum physics, ecology. We're discovering that everything is connected in ways we're only beginning to understand.
Yeah.
And once we really grasp that, it becomes harder to justify systems that create inequality or exploit people and the environment.
It's like once you see those connections, you can't unsee them. It makes you reevaluate your values, your actions, the whole system you're a part of.
Exactly. This new plan for Earth, it's challenging us to move beyond the limits of how we're thinking now and really imagine a world where cooperation, compassion, and sustainability are the driving forces.
Okay, I'm getting chills here. It's such a beautiful vision, but also it feels so daunting. How do we even begin to shift our consciousness like that? On a global scale, where do we even start?
That's the question, isn't it? But this plan, it emphasizes that transformation starts with the individual.
Okay.
Each of us has the power to choose, love over fear, compassion over judgment, cooperation over competition in our everyday lives.
So it's not about waiting for some big solution to come from the top down. It's about each of us embodying that change we want to see. Right here, right now.
That's it. That's the beauty of it. It's empowering. We cultivate inner peace and then we radiate that outwards through our actions, our words, our choices, everything. And history is full of examples of individuals who created massive social change just through their own courage, compassion, and integrity.
Yeah, like think about Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. They didn't have armies or political power or anything, but they sparked these huge movements that transformed societies just through the power of their ideas and their unwavering commitment to justice.
Exactly. And while we're not all called to be Gandhi or King, we all have a role to play in this awakening. We're not just observers, we're active participants in creating the world we want to live in.
That's a powerful reminder. And I think it speaks to this deep longing that so many people feel for a more meaningful way of life, a more connected way of life. But even with all these individual efforts, how do we make sure they actually lead to lasting change, to a transformation of our systems and institutions?
That's where leadership comes in. The article talks about this need for visionary leaders, people who can inspire and guide humanity towards this new model for Earth. And when they say leaders, they're not just talking about politicians or CEOs. They mean leaders at every level of society.
So teachers, community organizers, artists, entrepreneurs, anyone who steps up and inspires others to embrace this new way of being.
Precisely. It's about cultivating this new type of leadership, something that comes organically from communities, organizations, from within.
Hmm.
It's about empowering individuals to step into their own leadership roles, no matter how big or small, and contribute to this collective effort to create a more just, sustainable, and harmonious world.
So this new plan for Earth is asking a lot from us.
Yeah.
Individually, collectively, it's a lot to take in, but there's a real energy to it, a sense of possibility.
It is a powerful vision, and it reminds us that we do have the power to create a better future. That even with all the challenges, there's always reason to hope, to dream, to work together to create a world that's truly worthy of our humanity.
I love that. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, there's one more piece I want to touch on.
Okay.
The article keeps coming back to this idea of spirituality playing a key role in achieving this new plan. They talk about this spiritual unity as being essential. What do they even mean by that, and why is it so important?
That's a great question, and honestly, it probably deserves its own deep dive.
Right.
But I think what they're getting at is this need for a deeper understanding of our interconnectedness, not just physically, but also, spiritually.
So it's not just about recognizing that we're all connected through the environment, but it's about tapping into a deeper sense of unity. Like we're all part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. It's like recognizing that we're all connected by a common source of life, of consciousness. Like we're all part of this huge, intricate web of existence.
Yeah.
And when we tap into that awareness, well, it naturally brings more compassion, empathy, a desire to contribute to the well-being of the whole.
It's about moving past those limitations of ego and opening ourselves up to a much bigger vision of ourselves and the world.
Exactly. And this isn't necessarily about following any specific religion or dogma. It's about cultivating a sense of awe, wonder, reverence for life itself.
It's about recognizing the inherent sacredness of all beings and treating each other with respect, dignity, kindness, all that.
Exactly. And
Yep.
that's a powerful foundation for building a better world, a more just, harmonious, sustainable world. It's about recognizing we're all in this together, our fates are intertwined, and by working together in that spirit of unity and cooperation, we can overcome these challenges and create a future where everyone can thrive.
That's such a beautiful vision. But how do we even cultivate this sense of spiritual unity in a world that feels so divided, so fragmented? Where do we even begin?
That's the challenge, right? But I think it starts with each of us taking responsibility for our own spiritual growth,
Mhm.
seeking out practices and experiences that connect us to that inner wisdom, compassion, sense of purpose.
So things like meditation, spending time in nature, creative pursuits, connecting with like-minded people.
Exactly. It's about cultivating our own inner peace and then letting that radiate outwards through our actions, our interactions, everything. And while it might sound idealistic, history shows us that individuals can spark profound change through their own acts of courage, compassion, and integrity.
It's like a reminder that personal transformation leads to collective transformation. By nurturing our own spiritual well-being, we're contributing to the healing and evolution of the whole.
Precisely. And while cultivating spiritual unity might seem daunting, it's also incredibly hopeful. It suggests that the answers to our problems lie not just in changing external systems, but also in the depths of our own hearts and minds.
It's a call to look within and ask ourselves, how can I be a force for good in the world? How can I contribute to a more just, compassionate, sustainable future?
Exactly. And while the path ahead may be challenging, it's also filled with possibility. By tapping into our collective wisdom, our compassion, our creativity, we can create a world that's not just sustainable, but also just equitable and truly fulfilling for everyone.
That's a future worth working for. We'll be back after a short break to discuss the call to action in this new plan for Earth and what it might actually take for humanity to come together and make this vision a reality. Stay with us. All right, and we're back, ready to dig into that last piece of this new plan for Earth. We've talked about a lot, visionary leadership, those big global challenges, that whole concept of a type 1 civilization based on spiritual unity. But this article doesn't just stop with those big ideas. It ends with a real, direct call to action. What do you think about how they wrap things up?
What really struck me was how they didn't get lost in the details, with the call to action. It's not like a step-by-step plan or anything, no specific policies. It's just this big call for humanity to unite as one and basically lead ourselves to a new, spiritually evolved Earth.
It's like they're appealing to that part of us that wants to connect, that wants a purpose, that wants a better future than what we see sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And it might sound a little, idealistic, but there's something powerful about that simplicity. It cuts through all the noise and gets straight to the point. It reminds us that change really begins with each of us, with the choices we make every day.
So they're not saying it's up to governments or institutions. It's on individuals.
In a way, yeah, it's about recognizing that we're not just along for the ride on this planet, we're actually creating our reality together. They're saying it's up to each of us to step up and take responsibility for the future we want.
But is that even possible? I mean, history's full of division and conflict. Can we really achieve that kind of global unity?
That's the big question, isn't it? If I knew all the answers, well, we'd probably be living in that Type 1 civilization already.
Right.
But even though human history has definitely had its share of conflict, it's also full of examples of incredible things. Cooperation, compassion, resilience. Look at movements for social justice, advances in science and tech, all the acts of kindness that happen every day, everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. It's easy to get caught up in the negative. There's so much good happening, too.
Exactly. And I think the key to actually getting to this global unity is finding that shared purpose, something bigger than all our differences that brings us together on a deeper level. And I think this new plan for Earth, it offers a glimpse of what that could be, a future where humanity and nature are in harmony, where we've moved past scarcity and fighting, where we're working together to explore space and be the best species we can be.
It's a vision that could really inspire people across cultures, beliefs, everything. Something to aim for, even if it seems like a long shot.
Absolutely. Real change doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a slow but steady shift towards a new way of being. We might not see this whole new plan come to life in our lifetime, but we can each do our part to make it happen. It starts with making choices, spreading messages of hope and unity, and inspiring others to realize they can help create a better world too.
So even small actions matter. It's not about waiting for someone else to fix things. It's about doing what we can right now.
That's the beauty of it. Every act of kindness, every step we take towards living our values, it all contributes to a bigger shift in how we think, how we are.
That's a really powerful idea. It makes this plan feel less like some impossible dream and more like a journey we can all be on together.
I think that's exactly what Innerway is trying to say with their call to action. They're inviting us to be part of something really big, the evolution of humanity towards a future that's just sustainable and fulfilling for everyone.
And that wraps up another deep dive. We've covered so much, but I think the most important thing to remember is this. We have the power to shape our future. Even with all the challenges we face, there's always hope, always a reason to dream, and to work together to create a world that truly honors our shared humanity.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this new plan for Earth? What stood out to you? What one change would you make to create a better future for our planet? Share your thoughts with us on social media, or even better, talk about it with someone you care about. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep dreaming big.